This is looking at the 2003 NBA draft. Um, it was one of the better drafts in NBA history. Um, we all know some of the names from that draft, starting with LeBron James, one of the greatest players the game's ever seen. One of the most hyped high school phenoms the game has ever seen. He was small town dude, Akron, Ohio. A lot of hype for this guy. Um, Came in 6'8", 240. He was already a man. He was already a big, strong dude who he was a guy who made his impact in the NBA pretty early. 25 and 5 as a rookie. Um, coming into coming into his career, um, people knew that there was a lot of potential in Cleveland was doing what they could to get that number one pick. Um, and it worked out for them. Uh, I don't know, I can't say for sure, but Cleveland hasn't won a lot of titles in their sports history, and not sure if they would have won any titles if it wasn't for LeBron James being a in-state person, an in-state kid. So the ability to draft him, the importance of drafting him, made a huge difference. So draft night, New York City, 2023, probably one of the most anticipated drafts in the history of the NBA. Um, you look back at his career, he just won another gold medal. I think his third, four NBA titles, four MVPs. Probably could have had more MVPs. Um, Multiple time defensive, all defensive team. 2014, I believe, was his last year in Miami. He arguably could have been defensive player of the year that year. Marcus Gasol won it. Marcus Gasol is one of my favorite players, NBA players in history. But LeBron James' defense was out of control that year. It was a lot easier for him playing with Dwayne Wade. Um, same thing as same thing with same thing with Paul George. Paul George was a great defensive player. Probably had number one defensive win shares that year. Um, in terms of being his defense being responsible for wins. Um, Dwayne Wade, Paul George was insane defensively, and at that time he was young. He was a young puppy. He was a young dude. He was able to just go hard on defense. You know what I mean? Um, Great career. Probably if you can build a prototypical NBA player, at least an NBA wing, it'll probably look like Paul George or Tracy McGrady, something in that like 6'8", 6'9", long arms, broad shoulders, like thin basketball type of frame, super athletic, shoot from wherever, handle what really well. Those type of players just are really good. LeBron James is a one of one. We've never really seen a player like him, and what he's done is, it's hard to truly overstate it because there was a lot of anticipation for LeBron, and he lived he exceeded the expectations. Let's put it that way. There's very few athletes that come along, Messi, Ronaldo, Harper, like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Like a lot of guys came with a lot of hype, but not many like were lived up to the hype. So credit to LeBron for that. I mean, one of the greatest players the game has ever seen, in many people's opinion, the greatest player the game has ever seen. Um, Number two in this draft was Darko Milicic, and Darko was uh Serbian, Montenegro. Um, from what I remember, he had a really good. From what I believe, he had a really good workout with Detroit, so they decided to go with him as the number two pick. From what I understand, also, if they didn't go with Darko, they were gonna go with Chris Bosh. Um, so I think one of the things that was a little bit more challenging for Darko that people don't put in consideration is um just the fact that you know, um he moved from another country, and he has to adapt to this other style, um dealing with different personalities that he's not used to, different environment than he's used to, coming from Serbia, Montenegro at the time. I don't know exactly if he's more Serbian or, exactly what the ethnicity would be specifically, but coming from like that area to Detroit, Michigan, it's a transition for any type of human being, right? So it's not as simple as, oh, just go on the court and dominate, right? Some people were able to, but some people weren't. And he was just happened to be one of those guys that struggled to be able to adapt. And I think, secondly, Larry Brown, he was more of an old school kind of coach, more of an old school type of personality. And you had to kind of fit his style. And Darko probably just wasn't ready for that kind of like drill sergeant, hard type guy. So he came into the NBA and he struggled. But I mean, I'm sure if we look back at his career, he had some good games, some good, you know what I mean? He's still number two pick and one of the greatest drafts of all time. So, like, still accomplished a lot, made money, was able to support his family. You know what I mean? It weighs on you mentally in the same way sure it weighed on I'm sure it weighed on um Sam Bowie being drafted over Michael Jordan, because you always hear about it, right? You always hear about, oh, you weren't that good, this and that. But it's like the guy played in the NBA for mm, 9 seasons. It's not bad. It's not bad. Um, Looking at his best season in the league, he averaged 8.85. He played pretty well in Minnesota. Um, Detroit, it was he just wasn't getting the minutes. You know, 6.1 rebounds, 7 points in Memphis. You know what I mean? So he had some decent years. I mean, in um in 24 minutes a game, 8 rebounds, 8 points, 5 rebounds, 8 points, 5 rebounds, multiple seasons. You know, not bad, not bad. I mean, there's always going to be the people who are like, oh, he didn't live up to the expectations, and it's tough. Like, did he live up to expectations? Were the expectations? I think the expectations were more just the fact that he was drafted so high. You know what I mean? But yeah. I mean, if you're here, let me know your thoughts on the 2003 draft. This is Doing the Miss Ball. We're going through it. You could see some of the other videos looking at other drafts. Feel free to like. Feel free to subscribe. Feel free to join in. Let me know your thought. Um, Next was Melo. Melo, originally from Red Hook, in Brooklyn, um, honed his game in Baltimore, Maryland. Went to Towson Catholic. Finished up his high school career at Oak Hill. Oak Hill was a powerhouse. Steve Smith put together a powerhouse program, very much a boarding school type of environment that wasn't, you know, I want to say, it was in the middle of not a lot of things, right? Middle of eh, in Mount, what is it? Mouth of Wilson, Virginia. Like, so there wasn't a lot of things going on, so you were not going to get distracted. So players like that who needed a little bit more of a strict, particular type of environment go to Oak Hill, and they're able to make things happen. So Melo, being from New York, decides to go to Syracuse University. They were the top team in New York, probably the top all-time team in New York. Jim Boeheim's a legendary coach. Goes there with Jerry McNamara, um, Hakeem, um, young dudes, and they go and they win a national title. Melo was, I believe, the most outstanding player, balled out, had a great rookie year, probably could have won Rookie of the Year, co-Rookie of the Year with Bron. And if you look at his career, he's like a 10-time All Star, multi-time All NBA performer, probably like, at least like a 5-time All NBA guy. Finished third in MVP voting. Had some big years with Denver. Had some big years with the Knicks. Big shot taker, big shot maker. One of the best scorers, in my opinion, the best, like, probably pure scorer the game has ever seen. And, as we say, 3-level scorer, back to the basket, strong body. Honestly, don't think he could have scored way more points in his career. I just don't think he got the foul calls that he should have. I think he got penalized for being super physical and strong, and I feel like that worked against him, which is one of those things. But one of the best scorers, um, great number 3 pick in the draft, and really a legend in Denver. Chris Bosh. Chris Bosh. Let me see if he went to Skyline High School in that Dallas. He went to Lincoln. Um, yeah, Chris Bosh, man. One of the great Texas players. Dallas. A guy like Larry Johnson, Julius Randle. A lot of really good Texas players. A lot of good Texas power forwards. Chris Bosh, more of a face up forward, not like this, not like, doesn't have he wasn't the frame that was going to like back you down, back you down, back you down. He was a guy who could hit a lot of threes, probably could have hit a lot more threes if he played in this time. Lefty. He came into the NBA. His role was a little bit different than LeBron and Wade and Carmelo, because he came into the NBA in 2023. So Vince Carter was still prime time Vince Carter. So, but the advantage he had was he had one of the best players of all time to kind of show him the ropes, right? So he's able to play with a lot of great players in his career and learn. I believe Charles Oakley was on the team at that time. So there's a lot of guys on the team that are going to show you how to be a professional, how to play the game the right way, set you up for winning, set you up for success. And once Vince Carter was traded to the Nets, I believe, like 05 or so, you know, Chris Bosh was able to really spread his wings. He was the top. scorer. He became an all-star, right? A guy who was a 10-time all-star, um, two-time two-time title champion, NBA champion, and a solid human being, I would say. Solid human being, an intelligent person, a respectable person. Yeah, I mean, the blood clots kind of forced him to retire early, but if you look at the trajectory, if you look at the totality of his career, he's a Hall of Famer, right? One of multiple Hall of Famers from this draft, along with Bron, Melo, Wade, right? And next we go into Dwayne, oh, Chris Bosh out of Georgia Tech, right? Georgia Tech produced a lot of good players. Jarrett Jack, being one of them. Stephon Marbury, the Barry, Brent Barry, John Barry, Brent Barry might have went there too. I would have to fact check that. Let me see if Brent Barry went to Georgia Tech. Travis Best, New York point guard, went to Georgia Tech. No, he went to Oregon State. Okay, I didn't remember that. But John Barry, mm, so Georgia Tech, produced some good players. Uh, Maybe forgetting some people. If there's anybody you remember from Georgia Tech, Will Bynum. If there's anybody who you remember from Georgia Tech that I might be forgetting, feel free to throw it in chat. Or if you watch this after, feel free to throw that in the comment section because I might be forgetting some Georgia Tech legends. But shout out to Georgia Tech, man. Shout out to Georgia Tech. They like getting those New York point guards. Uh, yeah, Chris Kaman. Chris Kaman, about 7 feet tall, out of Central Michigan, I believe, right? Or Central Michigan. Um, yeah, good player with the Clippers, like early 2000s Clippers. That Lob City era. Good player. Probably could have like played better in this time, shooting a little more threes. Had some good agility, mobility. Probably like close to a double double guy. Honestly, Chris Kaman was good. Could hoop. Chris Kaman could definitely hoop. Um, he was an all star. I didn't even know he. I don't remember him being an all star, but yeah, he was good, man. Chris Kaman was good. Let's see. Best season average 18 and a half, 9 boards. 1 year average 15, 12 boards. Didn't shoot a lot of threes, but I would imagine if he played in this era, he probably would have been shooting some threes. Light it up, baby. Yeah, Chris Kaman, another All Star from this draft. Kirk Heinrich. Kirk Heinrich, I believe he played in the national championship game against Melo. Again, that's another thing you might want to fact check. I believe it was Kansas, Kirk Heinrich, Nick Collison. I believe they were the ones that lost to Melo and the Melo and Syracuse and Jim Boeheim and those guys. I believe Roy Williams, the North Carolina coach, was Roy Williams coaching them at that time? Good question. Let's fact check. Let's fact check. Because did Roy Williams win with yeah, I think so. I think Roy Williams was the coach. So let's fact check, but I do think he was the coach. Yeah, so till 2003. Yep. He was the coach in 2003 and then he won the title He won with Carolina when they got Ray Felton, and then won with Carolina again during the time of Ty Lawson and them guys. So, yes, he was a coach. Uh, yeah, Kirk Heinrich, really good defender. This was like the era of Ben Gordon, Luau Dang, you know, that Bulls era. He was a good point guard, about 6'3", in that range. Maybe, yeah, I would say 6'3". I believe he was probably from like the Iowa area, Midwest guy, could shoot it, could defend, could run a team, good player. Definitely like reminded me of that era, early 2000s basketball, you know, solid like athlete. Another guy who was definitely from that time, TJ Ford, another Texas dude. I think he was probably from Houston, but TJ Ford, man, rocking the braids, super fast, you know, probably I would say if you ask him he was who he was inspired by, probably say Iverson. You know what I mean? Iverson was just he was a guy from that era that really inspired a lot of people. Similar size, TJ Ford was probably like 5'11", 6 feet tall, maybe somewhere in that range. Not the biggest guy, not the physically strongest guy, but quick, fast, athletic. You know, injury. He had like that neck injury, back injury. He had that injury that kind of slowed down his career, but dope, dope player, big time high school recruit. I believe he was a McDonald's All American. Went to the University of Texas, did it for the hometown team. Um, Played with the Clippers. He drafted. Yeah, let's see. He was drafted by Milwaukee. Okay. Yeah. I mean, TJ Ford, man, quick dude, good player. I believe he's probably like a coach now or a trainer. Giving back to the community. Dope player from that era. So shout out to TJ Ford. Michael Sweetney, a little bit of an undersized Georgetown inside guy. This was like the prime of Georgetown basketball. We did the 2009 draft last time, so we spoke about Dewan Summers, um, Roy Hibbert from Georgetown, Jeff Green from Georgetown, like this whole kind of era. John Thompson, the third, coaching them. You know, yeah, Michael Sweetney, really good college player, a little bit undersized, but guy could go get a bucket. I believe he was drafted by the Knicks, wasn't he? Yeah, he was drafted by the Knicks. Different kind of era. Like I feel like back then your like your accolades in college mattered a little bit more for your draft stock. But yeah, still a dope player, dope career, lasted in the NBA. I would say what 5 years, 5 to 7 years. Really good college player, represented the Bulldogs, was a Knick. You know, can't be mad at him. Jarvis Hayes. He's probably like what 6'5". That kind of like power guard. 3'4". Georgia down south guy. Like he just looking at him, you're like, yo, this guy's an SEC dude, right? Played for Georgia, good player, good athlete, good scorer. Put it in the cup. Drafted by Wild. Like he probably averaged double figures a few times in his career. Um, he was a bucket. Yeah, well, yeah, 9 points rookie year, 10 points second year, 9 points third year. So good scorer, man. Good scorer. His best is with the Nets. He shot 38% from three. You know what I mean? And that wasn't like a 3-point shooting era. So Shout out to Jarvis Hayes. Michael Petrus, man. Michael Petrus, man. My sister and I always joke that he looks like my brother, like my literal brother, my actual brother. Um, France, you know, I would imagine he has African parents. Um, Good athlete, right? Like that two guard, oh, Caribbean, Guadalupe. Um, Good athlete, had some good years with Orlando. Drafted by Golden State says, but yeah, had some good years with Orlando. Athletic dude, you know what I mean? He's the kind of dude that you would want to try to stick on Kobe just to throw a body on him, throw some athleticism, similar kind of size. That 6'6", athletic two guard. Kind of like when we did the last draft and spoke about Christian Ayenga, like you know what I mean. I would say, I mean, Michael Peters probably had a little more bulk, a little more, ugh, to him, but athletic, similar kind of guy to me. Those are the kind like later in, probably in the later 2000s, he'd probably be a later pick, right? Because he's still a little bit raw. But in the earlier 2000s, he's an 11 pick. Christian Ayenga was like 29 or something like that. So, like the drafting style definitely changed, right? Like there's some of these guys that were really good college players, first team All American, this, that. Those kind of things don't really matter today. And as the draft started to progress, you don't really see it like that. That doesn't matter at all. You were college player of the year, doesn't matter. Nothing like that doesn't mean that doesn't take away from your accomplishments though. Like being college player of the year, not a lot of people on this planet are gonna say they're college player of the year, right? Not a lot of people on this planet are first team, second team, All American, AP All American players, right? It's just when it comes to NBA draft, a lot of it became potential and a lot of it became, at one point, it was a lot about potential and it went through like different like eras, right? It was the high school kid era that's coming up. Well, this is like the high school kid era. And then there's like the one and done era. There's like the international player era. And, now I would say it's been more on like, does your skill set translate directly to the NBA game? And I feel like that's why you've seen a lot of these drafts go so well, especially when they're drafting guards. You rarely see guards that don't work out, that don't pan out. You know what I mean? Markel Fultz didn't necessarily turn into what everybody expected, but he had a freak injury. No freak injury, I believe he's a multi-time All-Star. Markel Fultz, I know what he was in high school, saw what he was at the Matha. I just don't see, or as Bill Simmons, you do his career over again, doesn't get that. Don't see how he's not an All-Star. Shout out to Michael Petrus, man. Playing the NBA Finals with Orlando against Kobe and those guys. That's a heck of a life. Nick Collison, another Kansas guy, right? His Kansas comrade, compadre. Um, Kirk Heinrich was drafted a little earlier. Another guy that may, like what I'm saying, as far as All American, you know what I mean? Those guys with like the accolades that get drafted super high, maybe different in a later draft. You know what I'm saying? Like even by the time Tyler Hansborough comes, I believe Hansborough was in the '09 draft. Hansborough, similar type of college legend, right? Later in the draft, right? It's just the way it is, right? Certain guys, Drew Timmy, right? Certain guys are more like their game kind of fits the college style a little bit more. Not to say that they're not good NBA players, because Nick Collison probably played 10 years in the NBA. One of the best college players all time. Probably a McDonald's All American high school. Like, just one of those really, really good high school players. Um, Probably jump into some more high school players. Um, in a bit. Yeah, might do a high school player after this if there's some time. Definitely want to get into some high school ball. We'll see what's up. Um, Marcus Banks. Marcus Banks, man. What is he? Probably about 6 feet tall. Out of UNLV. He probably played for Talk the Shark, Jerry Tarkanian. Um, Let me go look. Let me look Tarkanian to see if he was legitimately the coach. I don't remember. Marcus Banks, man, speedy, speedy guard. Rest in peace to Tark, man. He was a different kind of dude. He was the kind of guy that would take a chance on people. Nah, he didn't coach. So who was the coach at Fresno at UNLV? UNLV 2000 UNLV 2020 2003 basketball coach. See who the coach was at UNLV. Oh, Spoonhauer. Hmm. Spoonhauer. Definitely remember the name. Let's see some other places where he's coached. He's at Missouri State. Trying to think where I would remember him from. Probably from Eastern Illinois, where he was there from 2012 to 2021. I'm sure I emailed him many times for players. I was contacting coaches all day long. That's what I was doing in college. I wasn't even studying enough. I was just always on the phone with college coaches. Probably didn't respond to me. Probably didn't care. I could probably look back. Honestly, I'll be pretty sick if I go back in my emails and see if which one of these coaches responded and things like that. Probably be pretty fun. Um, I can say Skip Prosser from Wake Forest was probably one of the big, like the few like high major, big time school head coaches that ever cared about anything I had to say. So shout out to Skip Prosser, showing me love. Rest in peace, legend, legend. Coach your boy Chris Paul CP3. Yeah, Marcus Banks, man, quick from Boston. Um, he was selected by Memphis Grizzlies. I guess Houston selected him, Memphis acquired him, and then traded him to Boston. Had some solid years with Boston. Marcus Banks. Shout out to Marcus Banks. Man. On a Greek title. Had his best year with Minnesota, averaged 12 points, 4 assists, and a steal. Shout out to Marcus Banks, man. Played in the NBA for about 8 seasons. Was in the playoffs with Boston and Phoenix, but had some of his best years overseas. Yeah, played at Dixie College, JUCO. Shout out to the JUCO guys getting it done. Luke Rittenauer, another Luke Rittenauer, man. I would say he was another like college legend. He finished up at Oregon, but I think he started at Gonzaga. You know, am I wrong? I don't remember. But like I remember this era of like guards, like these American guards. Luke Rittenhouse pretty small, maybe like 6'1". You know what I mean? But slick ball handler, could shoot. Kind of like in the Dan Dickau mode. I don't know if Dan Dickau's in this draft as well. Dan Dickau came from Gonzaga. You know what I mean? Like those kind of guards, slick with it. I remember him playing for Seattle. Dan Dickau, man. I mean, Luke Rittenauer, good player, good guard, could shoot it. You know what I mean? Like those kind of guards were probably not as popular as drafts went on. And then it's not a knock to him. It's just a lot of times it'd be like, okay, who are you defending? You know what I mean? Especially as the point guard position started to get really, really nutty in like the late in the 2010s. Like it just got crazy. Like these point guards were just out of control. But shout out to Luke Rittenhauer, man. Reese Gaines, like a two guard, probably a two small forwardish. Yeah, they have him at forward guard. There's a lot of that. There's a lot of that, like those wings. Different era forward guard. Like they weren't the terminology was a little bit different. Right. Today we would call them wings. Back like in the 90s, they were calling them like swing men. I don't know if you remember that terminology, swing man. Like Nike swingman jerseys. Like, yeah, he's a swingman. You know what I mean? I remember that era. But Reese Gaines, probably about 6'6", Louisville guy. Um, Under Rick Pitino, great college player. That's the era of Francisco Garcia, Taekwon Dean. Francisco Garcia, the Dominican legend. I believe he probably grew up in New York. Um, you can check me on that. But your boy Taquan Dean from New Jersey, from Neptune, the Jersey Shore. Hmm. Shout out to Taekwon Dean, man. 6'3" ish point guard. Probably would have and possibly could have got drafted first round if he had and got a spot in the league if he had left early. That whole leave early, stay in school was like a big thing at that time. Yeah, Reese Gaines, good player, drafted by Orlando, big wing player. Troy Bell, another like college legend, Boston College. I always felt like Troy Bell reminded me of Stephen A. Smith. Stephen Smith was young at the time, and Troy Bell, I don't know, he just reminded me of Stephen A. Smith for some reason. Troy Bell, he was a bucket. He was a bucket in college, just giving people the business. You know, maybe about 6'1" ish. You know, could just get it how you need to get it. In college, he played with another like lefty. I feel like I don't remember the lefty's name, but Troy Bell was really good. I think he got drafted by Memphis. Where did he get drafted? Oh, traded to Memphis. So he got drafted by Boston, traded to Memphis. Yeah, Troy Bell, man, such a guy from that era, college legend. I'm sure if he goes on campus, it's bonkers. This is like the Slam magazine era. I feel like I would just like as a kid in elementary school, I would be so hyped to like see all these guys on Slam magazine. It was so cool to me. Zarko Cop Capacarp Cap Bark Cabar Cap Bark Cab Bar Kappa Cabar Kappa Zarko Cabar Kappa Zarko Cabar Kappa. Okay. I don't remember him at all, really. Played it with the Phoenix Suns. Yeah, I don't remember him. He's Montenegrin and Serbian. I guess he was born in Serbia, Yugoslavia. That whole thing was tough because like these nations like they had wars and they had some issues. So it's like people are Serbian, Montenegrin. But yeah, shout out to him though. Big man, again, one of those guys that probably could have been better in this time where he's able to shoot and swap threes and things like that. Doesn't really say a lot about his time in the NBA, but he definitely played in the NBA for a few seasons. I'm just not familiar with him. Um, Finished his career in 2009, won gold in the World Championships with Yugoslavia. So shout out to him, Zarko. David West. David West. This was back when Xavier was a mid major. So Xavier was in the Atlantic 10. Shout out to the Atlantic 10. David West playing with Lionel Simmons. Man, or was it Romain Sato? Nah. Let's look at Xavier. This was back. Lionel Simmons, I'm pretty sure, was playing with David West in 2003. Romain Sato. Did he not play at Xavier? He did play at Xavier. Romain Sato, 6'4", from Central African Republic. What years did he play at Xavier? 2000 to 2004, yeah. So he did play. And then Lionel Simmons. I believe Lionel Simmons was also there. Romain, shout out to Romain Sato, man. I don't know if he played in the NBA. He did not play in the NBA, but had a heck of a career overseas, it looks like. World Cup champion. Lionel Simmons did play in the NBA. I know he played for the Clippers. I know he played for the Clippers. No, okay. No, not him. Simmons, Xavier. Basketball. Lionel Simmons was a first round pick. Shout out to him. Lionel Chalmers? No, Lionel Xavier basketball. Lionel Chalmers. Okay, it was Lionel Chalmers. Okay. Played at Xavier 2000, 2004. So they all played together. They all played together. They were really good in college. Romain Sato, David West, Lionel Chalmers. Shout out to Chalmers. I called him Lionel Simmons. Yeah, they were dope in college. Just to like them. A10 was fire at that time. Uh, GW. I remember they had they had the African big man. He was like 6'9", super athletic. Um, they had Danilo Pinnock, 6'5". Ooh, that was a great era of A10 basketball. If you hoop in the A10, shout out to you. Shout out to the A10. David West was just one of those guys. He was a mid-range bully, mid-range boss. You know what I mean? Like the footwork was crazy. Wasn't like the tallest dude, maybe 6'8", 6'9", maybe 6'9". Um, just knew what he was doing. He was basically like the smaller version of LaMarcus Aldridge. You know what I mean? Just like the same thing, just like mid range, tough guy. Turned out to be a multi-time All Star in with the New Orleans Hornets at that time. They were called New Orleans Hornets. Man, he was dope. Man, played with CP3. CP3 would come in next year. Shout out to David West, man. I'm pretty sure he won some NBA titles too, or at least one, either San Antonio or Miami. Yes, won two titles with the Spurs. College Player of the Year. You know what I mean? Like back then, being College Player of the Year meant a lot, right? So he was the best player in college basketball this year. AP Player of the Year in 2003. Heck of a player. At his Xavier, so dude was hooping in college, hooping. I'm sure they had this jersey retired. Sasha Pavlovich, yeah, good, like really good, like international. Like Serbia had so many dudes, like so many, like this. Their international team was They had to be frying people. Like so many good Serbian players. Pavlovich, he was good. He was good. Then he might have played with the Nets. Who did he play with? T Wolves, Cavs. I'm trying to see which era of him I probably remember the most. Probably the Cavs, right? If I'm thinking Sasha Pavlovich. Yeah, shout out to him, man. Um, Played several years in the NBA. Yeah, had his best year with Cleveland. Yeah, shout out to him, man. Shout out to him. I don't know what they did on the international tip, but they had to be frying people. They had to be frying people. Boris Diaw, another French legend. Shout out to France for what they did in the Olympics. Let me move this back a little bit so I'm not out of frame when I'm looking. Yeah, Boris Diaw, man, that dude, he was he was one of those guys that was just like an all around player. Like he was the kind of guy that could last for a really long time because he didn't do anything based on his athleticism. You know what I mean? He was just one of those guys that play at his own pace, kind of like slow mo. Kyle Anderson. Shout out to slow mo, man. Um, Maybe we'll do a draft with him. UCLA dude, St. Anthony's product, slow mo. But yeah, Boris Diaw, French legend. You know what I mean? Playing with Tony Parker. I believe he probably has a title, at least an NBA title. Boris Diaw was just a guy who just understood basketball at a really, really, really high level. High IQ player, a guy who could really get his teammates involved. I don't know. I want to say in many ways was maybe ahead of his time. Zoran Planinic, Croatia. Yeah, played with the Nets. Definitely remember Zoran Planinic. He's probably this. Is he the like a lot? Like this was like a very big era for like European like players coming into the league. As you could see, we got Croatia, we got several Serbian players, France. Like you know what I mean? Huge, huge era. Planinic, tall, probably like 6'7", wing, hits threes. Man, shout out to him. Travis Outlaw. Like when another guy like similar to Jarvis Hayes, who I mentioned earlier, like there's certain like down south like SEC type dudes that you just know they're athletes. Off the top of my head, I don't remember where he went to school. I'm gonna say Ole Miss, but it has to be a SEC school. Okay. Oh, he went to he came out of college, Starkville. Okay, Starkville, Mississippi. Um, Yeah, just one of those dudes, like super down. Like just looking at his athleticism, he's got to be from the South. Like those South dudes, they're just built differently. Like they're just athletic. Gerald Wallace, Latrell Sprewell, like these people from like Alabama, Mississippi, like they're dogs. You know what I mean? Like they get it out the mud. Like you know what I'm saying? Travis Outlaw, athletic defender you know, drafted by Portland. Brian Cook. Brian Cook, he kind of reminds me of Channing Frye. A tall, maybe a little bit ahead of his time too. Played at Illinois, right? Yeah, ahead of his time. Face up four man, loves to shoot the three, like Channing Frye, like you know what I mean. Those guys that just bop 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 marksman, tall marksman, had some good years with the Lakers. Carlos Delfino, good tough dude with Detroit. I felt like he was a perfect fit for Detroit in that time. You know, he might have played with Utah too, but like tough dude, like just went hard. Argentina. Um, this was like a great, like another international European player, right? Like in the era of Argentina, like Ginobili. You know what I mean? Like that era of basketball cannot be overstated. Like Carlos Delfino, tough dude, man. These guys are so fundamentally sound. They just know the game, man. They just know the game, man. Like shout out to Carlos Delfino, man. Play with Houston as well. Oh, and Duty Ebby. Man, another high school dude. He was a big deal coming out of high school at this time. Another Texas dude. Um Houston guy. Yeah, he was like a athletic dude. He's probably like 6'9". Maybe I'm a small forward. Like I don't know. Like he was kind of raw to me. Yeah, 6'9", 240. It's kind of raw, man. Um, Played a few years for the T Wolves, man. He was raw. Like he was athletic. You know what I mean? At that time, when you're athletic and young, like you got some size, like there's always a shot. There was always a shot, man. Probably needed to be. I don't know. You could learn on Kevin Garnett at that time. Just probably just need. I don't know. Need a little more tutelage, but dude was athletic, young. Great era for him to come into the league. But yeah, originally from the UK. Shout out to the UK Nigerian dudes. OG Ananobi, another one. Yeah, man. Heavy. Kendrick Perkins. Um, if anybody watches ESPN basketball, we would know Kendrick Perkins. Um, Another Texas dude. Kendrick Perkins had some really good years with Boston. Great field goal percentage. I think he said he has like the highest field goal percentage of all time. Took over from Cornbread Maxwell. Shout out to Cornbread. Shout out to Cedric Maxwell. 80s legend with the Boston Celtics. Playing with Larry Bird and them dudes, man. Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, Robert Parrish. We talked about 2009 draft. Henderson. Who else? Dennis Johnson. You know what I mean? Whew. 80s was different, man. I want to do on some stuff on the 80s. 80s was just different, man. The drafting was a little bit definitely different. The way they drafted was not the same. But as far as the teams, fire, 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 fire teams in the 80s, man. We're getting to the end of the first round. Might stop it. Leandro Barbosa. Fast dudes, man. Great foot speed. Um, Great fit for Phoenix at that time. Guy that was just gonna get to the rim and hit short jumpers. You know what I mean? Leandro Barbosa um playing with Steve Nash and Q Richardson, Joe Johnson, young Joe Johnson. Um Man, Leandro Barbosa, Brazilian legend. FIBA legend probably, like just one of them dudes, man. Fast, you know. Um this was a steal. Steal at number 29. Probably the most value pick in this whole draft. Josh Howard to the Dallas Mavs. Um, Really good player at Wake Forest. Um, Ended up being a really good NBA player, becoming an all star. Josh Howard, man. Um, he was like Josh Howard. How tall was Josh Howard? Maybe 6'6", somewhere in that range. Like a wing, could knock down the three. Like, he was probably like a 3 and D guy before 3 and D was a thing. You know what I mean? Just did a little bit of everything, man. Probably like a coach or something now, but yeah, Josh Howard was cold in that era. Masi Lampe. I don't know if he played in the NBA. He got drafted by the Knicks. No, he did. He did. Played for the Knicks for one season. No, I played a few years in the NBA actually. Big man. Had some legendary years in Russia. Russian League MVP. All Russian second team, Russian Cup MVP, Russian Cup winner, Liga ACB, played in ACB, first team, Euro Cup. So yeah, he seems like the type of guy. I remember the name. Seems like the type of guy that would be a European legend. Um, Number 30, so first pick of the second round. I wonder if the drafts were different back then. Like, let me look at the 2024 draft because I feel like they changed the amount of like spots in the draft. I don't know why. Nah, same, same. Um, Last player going into the second round was Jason Capono. Jason Capono, big time shooter, was UCLA. Yeah, UCLA. Probably like 6'7". I feel like he was one of those guys that was a big time college player, big time high school player. You know what I mean? Probably would have benefited from playing in this era. He might have won a title too. 6'8". Yeah, won a title with the Miami Heat in 2006. Dwayne Wade, Antoine Walker, Gary Payton, Shaq, Zoe, Jason Williams, White Chocolate. Yeah, man. NBA 3-point contest champion 2007, 2008, Greek Cup champion, all four-time Pac-10 first team. I'm surprised he wasn't a McDonald's All-American though. Oh, he was a McDonald's All. Yeah, okay, he was a McDonald's All. It just doesn't mention it. Yeah, like big time high school player, big time college player. You know what I mean? Just definitely from his time, just one of those dudes. You know what I mean? Jason Capono, legend. You know what I mean? Um, 3-point shooter. Imagine if he played in today's game, probably scored way more points. God bless in Jesus' name, amen. I'm gonna look to probably come back and do a little bit more draft talk, uh, either today or one of the coming days.